Welcome to another segment of my chemistry videos as we focus on rusting of iron. Now when exactly does rusting of iron take place? So remember that rusting occurs when iron, comes in contact with water and oxygen. So remember that when iron comes in contact with water and oxygen, then rusting is going to take place. In this case, what is going to happen is that the iron is going to undergo an oxidation reaction. So there's going to be an oxidation reaction that is going to take place. Remember, oxidation simply involves the gain in oxygen. So for example, if we have iron and it comes in contact with oxygen, it also comes in contact with H2O. What will happen is that this iron is going to be changed into what we call as being iron 3 oxide. So that will be changed into iron 3 oxide with some water molecules incorporated, and therefore we can say it is going to be converted into hydrated iron 3 oxide. So to balance that one up, we can put up a 2 there. When I put up a 2 there, it simply means I need to put up a 3 because there will be 6 oxygen. I can put up a 3 and I can put up that. And therefore, when we talk about the chemical name for rusting, is simply called hydrated iron 3 oxide. So we are simply saying the chemical, so we can say that the chemical name for rusting is hydrated iron 3 oxide. So hydrated iron 3 oxide. Now if you notice the formula hydrated iron 3 oxide, we do not know how many water molecules are there. That is why, because I've put up X there, I can also put up X there, because you don't know how many water molecules have actually been incorporated. But remember, rusting is simply called as being hydrated iron 3 oxide. Now obviously, if you want to prevent a rusting, it simply means that you need to prevent water and oxygen from reaching or from getting in contact with a metal substance like iron in this case. So we can talk about what are some methods of preventing a rusting. So let's talk about methods of preventing rusting. So methods of preventing rusting. What are some ways that we can prevent rusting? One, most people are going to paint. So you want to cover the layer of the metal, so you can do that by painting. Two, you can talk about oiling and maybe greasing, where people apply grease. For example, if you want to prevent the bicycle chain from rusting, and therefore you can apply grease so that you prevent it from rusting. Another method that we can use is what we call as being galvanizing. So galvanizing in this case could be where you get a piece of metal, you get a metal to be covered and you coat it with another metal. So it's a form of what we call as being sacrificial protection. So that is what we call as being galvanizing. So like I mentioned, when we talk about galvanizing, it's simply a process where the iron is actually coated with a layer of zinc. So you could have iron there, but this iron is simply coated with a layer of zinc all over the body to prevent it from rusting. Instead, the zinc that is coated on the iron is the one that is going to be sacrificed. So galvanizing can be a form of sacrificial protection. But of course, others might actually say sacrificial protection. So you can use that word, sacrificial protection. But galvanizing and sacrificial protection are almost the same, maybe in slight differences. The other method that you can use is you can also prevent you know, a rusting of iron. Maybe we'll talk about it in another segment, electroplating, but specifically I'll tell you what, you know, that method is all about. So in the exam you can talk about ways of preventing rusting as painting, oiling or greasing, galvanizing. You can also talk about sacrificial protection. Now I want to quickly tell you something. There are some factors that may increase the rate of you know, rusting. So we can simply talk about, you know, factors affecting, so we can say factors affecting the rate of rusting. So what are some factors that are going to affect the rate of rusting? Number one, you know, temperature. So temperature, how does it affect the rate of rusting? Well, it follows that you know, the higher the temperature, the faster the rate of rusting. That is what you need to remember. Two, we can talk about maybe salts. You know, salts, for example, you know, our common salt, what we are calling as being sodium chloride. So the presence of salts like sodium chloride, you know, does affect the rate of rusting. Now, how does it affect the rate of rusting? Remember, I can say that the presence of salts increases the rate of rusting. So if you put up maybe you know, salt in water, it simply means that you know, the iron is simply going to rust. So if you have maybe some test tubes where you get a piece of iron, put it in maybe just normal water, you just put it in normal water, and you get another piece of iron and you put it, you know, in water, but you know, you create a salt solution, you're going to find that you know, the iron that is placed in a salt solution is going to rust faster as compared to the one that is placed in just ordinary water. So that is the way it happens. Another factor that affects the rate of rusting are acids. So how do acids affect the rate of rusting? You need to remember that you know, the presence of acids, you know, we can say speeds up the rate of rusting. So if you have got acids, if iron is exposed to acids, it simply means that the rate of rusting is going to be accelerated. Now, certain things that may actually slow down the rate of rusting is what we call as being alkalis. So when we talk about you know, alkalis, bases that are soluble in water, you're going to find that they slow, you know, the rate of rusting. So I can simply say that the presence of alkalis, so the presence of alkalis, you know, slow down the rate of rusting. So that is what you need to remember, that the presence of alkalis will always slow down the rate of rusting. Now I want you to take note of a few points that you know, you need to understand. You know, when it comes to either iron and steel, you know, iron and steel, or maybe we can say that alloys of you know, alloys of iron, you know, when these are exposed to oxygen and air, we use a special term, and that is what we call as being rusting. But when any other metal is exposed to that, you know, we do not use the word rusting, but sometimes we can use, you know, corrosion. But I don't mean that when it comes to iron and steel you cannot use corrosion. It is just that we give it a special name. Specifically when it comes to iron and steel, we say rusting. Only iron and steel rust. But when other metals are exposed to, you know, to other environmental factors, and you know, a layer of maybe their surface is actually, you know, damaged, we use the word, you know, corrosion, or it has, you know, corroded. Thank you so much for watching my video. See you in the next one.